well, we're all over the place already now, but how was basic training for you back in the day? How was that experience? Like, because I know it's very different now, but I
Yeah.
mean, right after,
So to kind of date myself and give you a timeline, um, I when I went to basic training in that summer of '06, went to Fort Knox, which was male only. And if I'm not mistaken, it's been almost 20 years, but I'm pretty sure we were the second class to get the digital OCP. So they had only been handing them out for two classes. So I've never shined a boot in my life,
hmm
right? Um, so that's kind of where the era I came into. But besides the uniform and not shining boots, everything else was pretty tight ship. You know what I mean? Like we didn't have cell phones. In fact, we had a guy we called Razor because Razor flip phones were the big thing
hmm
back then, and he snuck one in and like kept it for man like 4 or 5 weeks, and he finally got caught because he left his charger in the wall one night or one morning. But um, so we didn't get those. We still had to go to the payphone and make all of our phone calls. So writing letters was big, and I know now like my nephew was at basic, and like I could text him at basic training, right? And I don't know if it seems like a lot of times it was pretty instantaneous feedback. Like he was getting back to me, and I'm like, "What are y'all? What is going on?"
Yeah. Well, whenever Chad was there, you only had you guys were in trouble all the time. You got phone privileges taken away.
You got phone privileges every Sunday.
Okay.
Every Sunday, but you could get it taken away. And we had a really bad, at least my company at Fort Jackson was really bad. We would lose our phone privileges all the time. And I'd be like, I had a talking to the platoon, I mean, through the company. I was like, guys, you are getting these dudes who have families, like, they can't talk to their kids. This is like horrible.
Yeah.
And like, I get that some of y'all don't care, but I mean, just like, oh man, it was bad.
But
Yeah.
and it was the same. But I actually we didn't. I went to the same place he did. So I mean, drill sergeants like it was like going to high school football. Like you had an older
Sure.
brother there. Like I get off the bus and it's like, oh crap! Like Dr. Watson, grab him. I was like, start pushing. So it was that was interesting. That was a unique experience. But same though, we got our phones every Sunday. Like we didn't ever lose our phone privileges there. So that was nice. But at the same time, I was like, this feels weird. But what was interesting was they had the payphone booths there, but they didn't have the payphones in them anymore. And I was livid because I mean it dates you, because I was one of the old guys there. But I'm walking by and like some kid goes, "What's that?"
Yeah.
I just go, "That's a payphone booth stand." They go, "What's a payphone?" And I was like, "Are you kidding me right now,
It's
kid?"
old technology, man. Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of the timeline I was in, and so to experience that and to see what people have nowadays, it's obviously very different.
Mhm.
I know why military retirement's 20 years now because you have to get out and let other people kind of pick up the gauntlet and run with it because
Mhm.
things are going to pass us by, right?
Yep.
Um, Before we hit record here, you asked for a funny story, and I can tell you. So, like I said, I was at Fort Knox. We were on one of our sticks lanes. I don't know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. We stayed in the field, and I had a moment where we were crawling through the woods, and I look up, and there's this spider, and I've never seen a spider wearing armor, but this spider had like spikes out of its back. It was black and white, and it had these giant spikes sticking out of its back, and it was probably maybe the size of a $50 or something, maybe a
Mhm.
quarter. But I was already sleep deprived, and I look up and I'm like, when did spiders get armor? Like it has weapons on his back. What is this? That was one of my funny. Like I still remember that stories. Everything else was just kind of what we had the three hills. What is it? Heartbreak, agony, and misery. I think at Fort
Mhm.
Knox. I don't know if you've ever walked those hills, but they're not fun. That's like that you
Mhm.
can literally touch the ground in front of you as you're walking up it. Um, that's probably where all of our lower back issues came from. Everybody who went to
Yeah.
Knox is those hills right there.
We didn't have them that bad. We had what we called Heartbreak Ridge, but that was like the walk up to where our basic barracks was. It was so right down this giant hill was where Vic Tower was, and so every time we went on one of our ruck marches or whatever, we'd walk past every single event we did. But on the way back, you'd have to walk all the way back up this giant hill. It was concrete road, thank God, but still, it's just like if you can just make it up this hill, the barracks are right up there, and we can just unload and just not have to worry about it for the rest of the day. So we did
Yep.
have our version of Heartbreak Ridge for sure.
Yep, that was basic was one thing. AIT completely different. So I ended up going to Leonardwood because I was 88 Mike, and that's where women got inserted into the military for
hmm
me, right? So that was a co-ed training site,
hmm
and man, were there problems there, right? Like
Yeah.
they show you on day one, they walk you over to the Hall of Shame, and it's just all the Article 15s from men and women doing what men and women do when you put them at, for whatever reason. Like, I don't know how you can't just go. I think it was 6 weeks or something, 8, 9 weeks, whatever. Like, I'll just learn how to drive a truck for 9 weeks and not touch your battle buddy. But
I mean, it is the same at basic training though too. Like, we had, but it also changed the dynamic. Guys, we can say stuff to each other and make jokes and crack jokes. And I remember, and we come from a similar generation where, like, we locker room talk is locker room talk. So I would make the same jokes I made in high school, and then there'd be these 18, to 20-something-year-old girls there, and be like, if you say it again, I'm gonna make sure you get in trouble. And I was just like, oh my god, it's like I'm trying to relate to these young men who are like 10 years younger than me by like giving them an insight of what my childhood was like. But it's like, don't say that, So it changed the dynamic. I'm not saying they can't do the job, but it just makes it so much harder to relate to people.
There's all kinds of dynamics there at work, right? Like and just people are weird around the other gender, regardless. I think we see it on deployments, which was it was actually really good for me to see that young, because I was home 9 months when we got orders for Iraq, and then we got over there and it was like the same stuff, right? Like, it helps you to realize, like, keep your hands to yourself, stay out of those drama circles.
Yeah.
I was in a relationship every time I went overseas, so I never had that issue. I never had to deal with the platoon relations, right? Like, luckily. But there's some guys that get super caught up.
Yeah.
And it's natural. Right?
It is. It's a natural part, and especially with guys who, it's like there's not a lot of options available to, like, because it's, and the girls are in the military too. It's like, it's what do you call it, Chad? It's like an army, an army 2.
So regular life 2 is an army 10.
Is an army 10.
Uniform is good for them.
Exactly.
So you become the hottest girl at school real quick in the army.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you become hotter than the hottest girl in the company or the battalion, effectively. But it's scary because, even then, it's like when you're hanging out with guys in the barracks. Now, even at basic training, you're like, I know what you just got done doing in the shower. You should be ashamed of yourself, man. Like, we all use that. Like, come on, bro, stop. Like, it's literally like what basic training was. What, 3 months, maybe 2.5 months? I can't remember what it was at Fort Jackson. It was like 11 weeks, I think.
It was 10. It was 10.
10, okay. Weeks. So, it wasn't like unbearable. Like, oh, what am I going to do? It's like, dude, it's 2 months, and you should be tired most of the time, too. So,
exhausted.
Just do what you're supposed to do.